All right, peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to the STEM Files. We are the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. On tonight's episode of the STEM Files, we're going to be talking with Donovan Colquitt, young engineer who strives to introduce engineering innovation to a city near you. Stay tuned for more after this. All right, all right. Good evening, everyone. And once again, welcome to the STEM Files. We are the voice of STEM talent and Black culture, where we strive to highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the Black community. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Tariq Cardiac, Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac, my biomedical research scientist with a concentration in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. I'm typically joined by Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabril Engineer. He is a civilian mechanical engineer for the United States Navy, focusing on the development and sustainability. Excuse me, focusing on the development of new types of um, material structures. And he cannot be here tonight, so I'm holding it down for the both of us. Donovan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's great to be welcomed.
Excellent, excellent. So tonight's episode, we're focusing on bringing engineering um, innovation and engineering education to inner city communities. So Donovan, talk to us more about what you do, where you're from, and where you are right now in your career.
Yeah, so I am currently a third year PhD student in engineering education at Purdue University. A little bit about my dissertation research. I am studying my own experiences as a Black male in an undergraduate engineering program. Basically, I'm trying to answer the question, why did I persist in engineering, and what was so unique about my experience as an engineer?
Right,
Maybe
right.
there's some commonalities there. I'm originally from Detroit, and I am. Let me take it back. What was the other question?
What do you currently do as a well, I'm going to rephrase the question. So you mentioned earlier on in the show, before we went live, that you're an engineering coach and helping those who are in engineering, helping them in the early stages of their career. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yes, thank you for that.
No
So
problem.
I am the owner and founder of the Scholars Key as well as STEM Able. The Scholars Key is a business in which I helped underrepresented students with getting scholarships for college. It's kind of like a career readiness, college readiness preparation type of business. And now I'm slowly transitioning into my new company, which is STEM Able, in which I am providing engineering students as well as early career engineering professionals with the coaching necessary to find a fulfilling career in engineering.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about your beginning. What got you into engineering? What was the driving force behind that?
Yeah, so as I study myself for my dissertation, I the story just keeps unfolding as I dive deeper into my memories and just different artifacts from my past. So I actually have a photo with my dad where I'm super smiling. I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog on one of our old computers, the one with the fat back.
Yeah.
And my parents told me that my first time being on the computer and just playing on it was when I was 2 years old. So I've kind of always grown up with technology around me. My dad had a Sega, a PlayStation 1. When I was a kid, I remember that would be my early exposure into video games, was really like an early exposure into tech. Um, my mom would take me to the Ann Arbor Hands-On Science Museum right next to the University of Michigan campus. And I used to love just having the experience to touch science and have something more tangible to latch on to. And I just love those experiences that I had growing up in the Motor City and being a part of the car culture. My dad has old school cars.
I can
He would always
imagine.
be working on them. Yeah, he'd always be working on it. And he also made sure that we had a computer in every bedroom. So, and he would be repairing them. And I just marveled at the fact that he was able to take things apart and put them back together. So it's really nobody forced me or put pressure on me to pursue engineering. It really was just a matter of curiosity and exploration. And I decided originally in the fourth grade was my first instance in which I wrote down that I wanted to be a chemical engineer. Mainly because I thought that chemical engineers got to mix drinks and like Kool-Aid and juices, and I used to love making new flavors. But when I
Right.
had chemistry, that kind of threw that out the window. So I stuck with mechanical engineering. I'm actually from a I have my dad is a mechanical engineer. His two sisters are mechanical engineers, and my grandfather is a mechanical engineer. So I kind of come from that line. They never pressured
Wow.
me. They never told me to do this. I never had the expectation. I don't even think I really knew they were engineers growing up. But I just happened to fall in line, you know.
So you're a third generation engineer.
Third generation. Yep.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you know, you said you wrote down, you said in the fourth grade, you know, you wrote down that you wanted to be a chemical engineer. What was your teacher's response to that?
You know, I wrote it in a journal, and oddly enough, the teacher never like talked to me about the experience. I think if anything, whenever I told someone I wanted to be an engineer at that age, they were like, "That's good for you." You know, it was an encouragement. It wasn't necessarily this is what you should do in order to
Right,
be
right,
an
right.
engineer. You know, it was
Uh-huh.
like, that's good for you. But yeah, my mom actually made a deal with me in the fourth grade that if I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Michigan's College of Engineering, then she would buy me a new blue Corvette because that's what I used to love driving in Need for
Wow.
Speed Hot Pursuit 3. Uh, so yeah, I had that motivation, that kind of external uh, driver to kind of like pursue this career. But yeah, it started early on for me. I know some people don't kind of get into interested in engineering until high school or even in college,
Right, right.
but it was definitely early for me.
Oh man, I love the early onset of knowing what what you want to do with your life. You know, a couple of episodes ago, we had a research chemist on, Dr. Janita Pritchett. She
Hmm.
talked about both of her parents being in engineering, and you just mentioned that you said your father and grandfather, correct?
Right.
So to talk about that, that family of engineers, what was dinner? What was the talks like at the dinner table?
Well, let's just get a little bit more personal, and let's put it like this. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old, and I was given the opportunity to go to my father's house every other weekend.
Mm,
As my father and I grew older, our relationship actually was not very strong. We weren't very close growing up, even though I saw him just about every other weekend. So we never really talked about engineering all the time. It wasn't like a daily conversation. I think what really drove me to want to be an engineer was because I saw his passion for it, and I wanted to be able to relate to him on a deeper level by pursuing engineering. So it was a way for me to connect, and this kind of unfolds like when I got into college and was finally in engineering. And I realized, hey, I don't know if I'm really cut out for this. These classes are kind of hard. And he was actually even though we weren't that close, he was actually like one of the first people I called when I was having doubts. And he reassured me that I was capable of doing the work. So, in 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 addition to that, when I was in college, and it's so theory driven. There's a high emphasis on theory rather than practical experience. And my dad was one of more of a tradesman, more of that person inclined for practical experience. So engineering was not necessarily the route that, or at least my collegiate experience in engineering wasn't necessarily the route to get closer to my dad, even though we eventually got much closer over time.
Got
So
it. Got it.
it's just
So
interesting.
yeah, so just basically, two sides of the same coin. One more the trade and practical application. The other one is more, studying the research side of things, developing new technology, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's an interesting thing you brought up. So when you were, even though you were on those on separate sides of it, were there things that you were able to discuss, not necessarily in your research, but just in what you were learning in engineering research? Were there things you were able to discuss to get a better insight on things, or was it just kind of, you know, leave me alone about that stuff? I like doing things like this.
You talking about with my father?
Yeah,
So oddly enough, as I did more engineering education research and learned the history behind engineering and why it is the way it is, there's definitely questions about, why are we so theory driven in academia? And it's really just a series of reports about the state of engineering education that led to more requirements for engineering and X, Y, and Z.
right.
But one of the most recent conversations I had with my dad, and I actually had the question with all of my mechanical engineering family. I asked them, why did they choose mechanical engineering? Why do they think all of us chose it? And oddly enough, my dad had a lot of experience kind of with computers. He recalls being in the ninth grade and just learning how to code with by reading books. And even though he never went into computer engineering, and he would code video games actually. And even though he wasn't a computer engineer, ultimately he still had a great interest for that work. My grandfather talked about um, having an interest in electronics and how a teacher in high school at Cass Tech actually told him that he was cut out to be an engineer, and so he went to an academy for engineers in Detroit, and that's what kind of set him up to work for DTE. So it's really a matter of, engineering is something that is pervasive in how we think, but it isn't necessarily what we expected for each other to do. We see each other as problem solvers, as thinkers, and we kind of measure our engineering capability by the way that we think. And so we're all proud that we chose engineering. We see it as a way of thinking, but we never really initially aspired to be engineers. It's really weird.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he's definitely proud of where you've come so far, in your engineering pursuits, and as a man, I'm sure
Yeah,
he's definitely proud of you.
thank you for that.
Excellent. No doubt, no doubt. All right, so I wanted to talk about what you do in terms of entrepreneurship. I
Mm.
know you help young people kind of merge engineering and entrepreneurship, and that's one of the things that we're passionate about on the OMS side of things, is to show people the power behind building business off from science and technology. So talk a little bit about that, and also talk about how you help them harness their cultural capital as well when you do these things.
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying that I recently got my master's in technology, leadership, and innovation with a specialization in STEM education leadership, which is a mouthful.
Yeah,
uh,
congratulations though.
thank you. But the main reason I chose to do this master's research after I was already pursuing my PhD was because I really saw this connection between engineering and entrepreneurship and being on the cusp of innovation and being a problem solver. And in my own college experience, I kind of craved entrepreneurship without realizing it, seeing that I wanted to serve people and wanted to get paid for it, but didn't necessarily like the way that corporate or corporations went about solving problems. So
Right.
I actually got a minor in sustainability because I wanted to change the world in a positive way. I didn't want to have a negative impact on people or the environment. Um, but I chose this master's research because I could do research on entrepreneurship and STEM education with a nonprofit in, I can't say the city, but it's a Midwestern city with a predominantly Black population. And so with that research project, I was able to observe how these students in the program leverage their cultural capital. And cultural capital, in at least the framework that I was looking in, there are 6 forms. There's resistant capital, or how you overcome institutional or external barriers. There's linguistic capital, how you use your language or style of communication. There's social capital, which is like using your network. There is familial capital, which is basically your family upbringing, that cultural tradition.
Right. Right.
Uh, there is navigational capital, so how you navigate institutions. And then there is aspirational capital, so your hopes and dreams despite obstacles or barriers. And so when I was looking at or observing these students and looking at how they leverage cultural capital, these different forms, I saw that despite their backgrounds and despite what they had to overcome, they aspired to serve people through their businesses. They wanted to make an impact in their community, and they were aligning their interest with their business outcomes. For familial capital, they were able to leverage their community or their family support to then to basically leverage in order to achieve the support necessary to build their business or get financial support, or in this kind of plays into social capital, where they're networking with their community
Yeah.
partners and they're reaching out to their peers. For example, there was high school students who wanted to create a tutoring or a college preparation mentorship program. And so they were heavy into using Instagram to determine topics that they wanted to use for their book that they wanted to create to help students with learning about the college process. And so they had like thousands of followers within a few months of basically starting their business. And I'm just like sitting here like, man, I only got 800 followers. How do I do that? So they're
Right.
leveraging
Right.
social capital strategically for upholding their business or uplifting their business outcomes. Um, let me see. For navigational capital, uh, let me just go with the interesting one, resistant
Okay.
capital.
Mm-hmm.
So with resistant capital, which was particularly interesting in that we were seeing these Black and brown students tackle on these greater social issues, such as the achievement gap. Or, for instance, there was another group of students who wanted to create like a snack truck company to give students meals at school, or sell meals to these students at schools, because they saw the need for these students who were oftentimes low income, coming to school late because they needed to go to the vending machine to get a meal because they were missing a meal at home. And so
Right.
what I'm seeing is that these students uh, coming from minoritized backgrounds, they are seeking out basically justice through their business. And I thought that was really powerful. And so they were learning different entrepreneurship aspects, but a lot of these students had an interest in STEM. A lot had an interest in making apps. They had a background in coding. And so what I would like to see more of is us teaching our youth engineering principles or skill sets so that they can then monetize those skill sets for and impact their communities while doing it.
Mm. Man, you said a lot right there, man. So I was dissecting some of the things you were saying, but before I get to that, I'm gonna go into a question from Jabril. Let me see which one. Okay, so you kind of went into this a little bit, but we're gonna explore this a little more. He said, what does it mean for underrepresented minoritized youth to leverage their cultural capital? Why is this crucial to building impactful community-based businesses in engineering entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So the thing about, let's say, the history of researching underrepresented or marginalized communities is that there's often a deficit lens put on these populations. And so we're saying, why are their test scores so low? Or why aren't they meeting the standardized test scores, or their GPAs are low, or basically all these different things, counting our youth out.
Right.
With the the lens or the framework, the theoretical framework or conceptual framework that I'm pulling from is called community cultural wealth, which is an anti-deficit framework that looks at the experiences and cultural capital, which is something that everyone has, and it isn't necessarily it's not determined by how much money you have or how much access to, let's say, monetary capital that you have. It's a way to look at our youth, our minoritized youth, in a more empowering light. And so it's important to look at our students, especially from underrepresented or marginalized communities, in a more empowering light, because we want to give them agency, or we want to acknowledge the agency that they already have. So when I look at how they leverage their cultural capital, which is something that they already have, that is an anti-deficit way to look at what they have in their communities and whatnot, then I'm giving power, or I'm giving a voice to the experiences that they have and how they can leverage those experiences in engineering and entrepreneurship. So instead of counting them out and saying, well, they don't have any funding, they can't start a business. Let's figure out how and in what ways they can hustle and make things happen for themselves despite any other obstacles that they are facing.
Right. Got you. Okay. Now, you mentioned something earlier. You said you didn't want to do the corporate way of doing things. Can you talk about some of those things you're talking about, and just in terms of how they do things?
Yeah. so I got to give you background, because
Okay.
I can't just go running off at the mouth on corporate, because corporate has benefited me in ways. It
Right.
has paid the bills before.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
So basically, I got an internship in the summer of 2014 with General Motors Flint Truck Assembly Plant. And I was a manufacturing engineering intern, and I was placed in facilities. So I was responsible for this 3 million square foot assembly plants, making sure that the water fountains were piped correctly to stormwater instead of wastewater, and making sure that the fire suppression system was fully covering the plant or all of the equipment, so that there weren't any fire hazards or areas of no coverage. And so I was really really dealing with the water systems for the Flint truck assembly plant.
Okay.
And now that same summer, or really that same year in April, the water system was converted from the Detroit River to the Flint River water system in Flint.
Mm.
And you can probably made
Yeah, it's
probably made
already,
the
yeah,
connection.
man.
Probably made the connection, but I'll spell it out. So
Uh-huh.
the Flint water crisis went public shortly after that summer experience at GM, making sure that the water was piped correctly.
My
And
God.
so, yeah, I felt like I was responsible for making GM less liable for their water systems, which was like, man, I
Wow.
kind of had a hand without knowing that I was protecting GM before everyone else was protected by the Flint River water catastrophe. So that took me on a journey to pursue my minor in sustainable engineering, in which I took a class in environmental law. I learned about just the different ways in which corporations have basically uh, destroyed or severely damaged our natural resources, which is really a pass or a trespass against human rights and human freedoms. So everybody has a right
Right.
to high, quality, a good qualities of water. So
Mm.
that's one way in which there has been environmental litigation against corporations. And there's one instance, I can't remember the name of the particular case, but there was an instance in which and they made a movie about this, but there was an instance in which a corporation was dumping their waste products into a lake or a river. And within the city that was getting their water from that river, a lot of the children in that city were diagnosed with cancer. And so this led to that company being sued because they put so much waste into that water source that there was a fire that was set on top of the water, which is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
corporations
that's a image. I don't even go ahead, bro. Good continue. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's crazy though. But corporations are often pushing profits over people,
Right,
and
right.
that just didn't jive well with me, especially after the Flint water crisis, happened. So I went on this pursuit to basically see how I could use my skill sets, my engineering degree, for people, and so that kind of pushed me into like social entrepreneurship ventures, and in leveraging kind of the good in people and in the good or the positive systems that we can create, so that we aren't necessarily at the mercy of corporations that are kind of pushing profits over people in the environment.
Mm. Yeah. And you know, one of the ways you go about doing that, or one of the ways I see you going about doing it, you know, in your vision with, putting, and this is this question kind of stems from Jabril's question here. He
Mhm.
said, describe your vision for a K-12 research and innovation center. What would it look like? What would make the customer experience unique? How soon are you looking to launch your first location? What kinds of resources, people, processes, equipment are you looking to engage to make your dream a reality? And you know, we spoke about this before we went live, and that's literally what we like to do and what we're currently working to do.
Yeah.
So just talk to us about that vision. What are some of the things it entails?
Yeah. So this whole goal was the sexy way of saying I really want to see more innovation centers for youth to get their hands on STEM and gadgets and do research and build skill sets, that they can use to then sell themselves and get upward mobility.
Right.
So and so my vision in terms of location, I haven't thought that far, although Detroit would not be the bad first location.
Oh no, not at all.
But my vision for it is to be able to basically take students, and I want to say primarily from inner cities, because that's kind of where a lot of tech is and a lot of access to different social opportunities are. Um, and I would like to basically give them access to emerging technologies. So this could be AR, VR, this could be cryptocurrency, or crypto technology. This could be, let me actually plug in another camp called Crypto Kids Camp, and they have, instead of STEM, they use beast mode. And so beast mode is like, let me just, I'm pulling it up right now so I can give you the full acronym. But what's so cool about it is that they're teaching students about blockchain, the evolution of money, which is crypto, artificial intelligence, security, or security of cyber, which is cybersecurity, technology, such as virtual reality, machine learning, online gaming, decentralized apps, and engineering. And so it's innovative educational experiences that we really need to start emphasizing for our youth. And to be transparent, I participated in after school programs such as the Detroit area pre-college engineering program. And to be honest, I did not enjoy my experience. I thought I was going to get access to cool technologies and be able to do all these cool different things, but I ended up being bored in my camp experience, and I don't want other students to go through that type of boredom. I want them to really learn and be able to visualize what is possible given their access to these different technologies. And so I haven't thought as far as equipment yet, but I definitely want the experience to be something like there's another nonprofit called the Gray Matter Experience, which teaches students about STEM and entrepreneurship. And this is in Chicago. They actually have different Black and Brown entrepreneurs teaching the curriculum and providing facilitation, providing mentorship, and guiding these students along the process of building their businesses, which is like, if I could basically create a research and innovation center to help my customers, which would be the Black and Brown students in inner cities, connect to entrepreneurial mentors in tech or in anything STEM. If I could connect them to emergent technologies such as spelled out in beast mode, and just give them the opportunity to do a deep dive into their own interests. If you like to code, we have C++, we have MATLAB, we have all these other new coding languages that are out there. We have the books, we have instructors that look like you and that can help you through the process. If you're interested in cybersecurity, we have someone on staff who can mentor you in that area and who can connect you to different internships, as well as maybe college connections. Honestly, I think college is becoming a broken model. And if I could find a way around having students spend, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars going to college, if I can get them the skills necessary to then be able to get a job or start their own business after high school or even during high school, I would be all for that. So I'm trying to figure out ways that that don't just make this a sexy goal that I have, but to make it a real tangible one. So I'm actually thinking about my own career path and what that would look like for these K through 12 research and innovation spaces. So for my career path, I'm considering working for the let me get the acronym because we love acronyms out
Right.
here, right? Let me. So
Take your time.
it's AAAS. And just for those who aren't aware, it's the American Association for the Advancement of Science. They have a postdoctoral fellowship in science and technology policy, and my goal is to work for the National Science Foundation through this postdoctoral fellowship to then get a wider understanding of the different research initiatives that are going on and as they relate to policy. And getting that exposure would help me kind of connect different ideas or aspirations that I'm having. And hopefully that would transfer on to practice. How can I inform practice from policy? Um, the other thing that I'm considering doing is working for the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and so they actually work with youth K through 12 that are or want to be inventors and innovators, and so
Yeah.
this exposure would then connect me to how, hey, what are people doing to educate our youth, or what are youth doing to educate us about how how to become inventors and innovators. And then the other thing that I'm considering doing is possibly getting into starting charter schools that teach STEM and entrepreneurship. So maybe it doesn't just have to be a research innovation lab. Maybe it can be a lab inside of a school, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
where there's more access to the lab than let's say an after school program could afford.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that's where I am currently. I don't have all the answers to Jabril's great questions, I should say, but that's where I'm at. And you know, it's a process of growth, and I'm as much a learner as everybody else. I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
Wow. Wow. Like, well, like I said, before we went live, man, everything that you plan on doing with these innovation centers is right along the lines of what we're doing with OMS. As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, we just concluded our first invention and innovation workshops where everything was done online. So we would love to. I'm just this whole entire time you were speaking, I was just thinking of different ways that we can work together
Absolutely.
and and help each other build our respective goals. So um, we're going to be busy, very busy this year. So
Yes,
I definitely look forward to it.
I will
Um,
give the opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. So for those who are watching, this is the STEM Files where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the Black community. Jabrilian engineer, Tariq Cardiac. Follow us on our social media handles: Facebook, the STEM Files; YouTube, the STEM Files; and Instagram at the STEM Files. We are with Donovan Colquitt. I am pronouncing your last name right, right?
Colquitt, yep.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right. So Jabril and I, a few months ago, Jabril and I were honored to serve as mentors for the STEM Success Summit. And from what I understand, you were actually a part of the planning committee for that, right?
Yes, I was.
Awesome. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so the STEM Success Summit is a summit where we call ourselves the STEM Avengers. We get together and we create an opportunity for early career professionals in STEM to learn about different career pathways that they might find interesting, and we also connect them to opportunities to then get facilitated into further down the STEM pathway that they want to go into. So we've had entrepreneurs, we've had scientists, we've had engineers, people in tech startups. I mean, you name it. We've had someone speak on it, or we will eventually have someone speak on the different opportunities. We've been so fortunate to have sponsors this second year of the summit this past November. So we had Best Buy as a sponsor, we had General Motors as a sponsor, at St. Jude's Children's Hospital as a sponsor, and we had Purdue University as a sponsor. And so with these sponsorships, we are connecting them with the talent that is those who are attending the summit. So our ideal person to participate in this summit ranges from those who are still undergrads, maybe juniors or seniors who are kind of making their way into a STEM career, to early career professionals, to just anyone who's interested in STEM. We also have high school students who have participated in the summit, and our summit has been growing each year. So we had over 1,000 attendees our first year. We have over 2,000 attendees, and we are hoping to go bigger and better for next year. Actually, we had Tatiana Ali or Ashley Banks from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air speak at our second summit. We had Idris Sandhu, who's done great work in tech for Nipsey Hussle, the great and late Nipsey Hussle. So he spoke for a good hour, and we're just basically trying to find new people, new faces of STEM, Black and brown folk, to show you like this is what STEM can be. This is what it's like to be a STEM success. This is what STEM success looks like. And we want our younger generation to be able to see great examples of what they could potentially do.
You know, one of the things I loved about the STEM Success Summit, there was a lot of myth busting that weekend, you know, just in terms of what science and scientists and engineers look like. You know, we didn't look like the typical scientist and engineer that you would see on TV or how they portrayed them on TV and in books and movies and stuff like that. So talk about how amazing it was to see just the way the Black excellence that was portrayed, or not portrayed, but that was exuded that weekend for the summit.
Yeah,
there were no ugly people involved in that, so to speak.
Sexy nerds, yeah.
Right.
We really are conscious about our efforts to break down different stereotypes, what it means to be a nerd. I mean, it's cool to be a nerd these days. There are so many different people who are participating in the STEM Success Summit that are Black, that are brown, Latino, Native American, and people that you don't necessarily get to see on your day-to-day. So oftentimes, if you're in a big engineering college, for example, you're surrounded by mostly Asian and white people. And that's just the state that we're in the United States. And that's how it is in corporate as well. So it's important for us to represent and show that there's more to us. There's no monolithic Black person or brown person. We come in all different shades. We come with all different backgrounds, and we aspire to do so many great things. And STEM Success Summit is our way to highlight those great things that we're doing, and it's a way for us to educate other people about how to join these different career paths that can be fulfilling and rewarding and can impact their communities, their respective communities. So the Black excellence is there. I mean, you know, we got brothers that's cool, that can talk about philosophy, that can talk about technology, can code up a storm, can tell you what it is to have sales examine on a macro scale and micro scale. You know, there's no really, there's no stereotype that we're not breaking with the STEM success. So I just really want to reiterate that if you are interested in STEM, if you are not sure about your career pathway in STEM, come to the STEM Success Summit, because that's where it's at.
Excellent. Yeah, we definitely had a good time. We can't wait to be on the next one. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be on Nehemiah's show this coming Sunday
Hey,
on STEM Media. So I definitely look forward to that.
I have to
Um,
tune in.
yeah, definitely. All right, so this is another question from Jabril. So he said, early on in engineering school, you are exposed to and learn the importance of working in a team. Outside of problem sets and design projects, what are some innovative ways that engineering schools can promote increased team-based creativity, critical thinking, allowing students to retain their love of engineering outside of their rigorous course load?
Woo! This is a
Now,
great
trust me,
question.
if Jabril was here, that wouldn't sound like such a mouthful.
Yeah, that's a big question, and believe it or not, I was actually talking about this in my leadership policy and change course today. um, I think the best way to tie a project to a student is to make sure that they're interested in that
Yes,
project and that it serves a purpose for a
right.
community that they're
Oh my
interested
God, thank you.
in. Yes.
I am
So
so tired of frivolous projects, things that mean absolutely nothing. But go ahead,
nothing.
bro. I'm sorry.
Oh no, hey, you'll preach to the choir, right?
Right.
if so so let me say that academia doesn't have it all wrong in that, like, Purdue has an epics program where they're giving engineering students the opportunity to do service learning projects for stakeholders in the community or shareholders in the community. So that's one instance in which students are getting college credit to do projects that do fulfill a purpose for community members, whether that be uh, making a prosthetic arm for someone who's missing one, or creating a hand sanitizing station for a museum or whatever. So there is the EPICS program, and I can't remember the acronym off my mind, but
I got you.
I would say that one of the things I would love to see more of is, instead of having students align themselves with the engineering grand challenges, I would love to see more students participate in projects that that solve problems in their own communities, because it's really abstract up here when you have a bunch of white males making decisions about what's important challenges or problems for us to solve in the 21st century. That's I was a academic facilitator for a summer college engineering exposure program, and that's one of the things they did: solve these problems that these people told you were important. And
Right.
that's where we get it backwards. We really need to look within our communities, similar to the Gray Matter experience, and see how we can impact those communities, because that's the most tangible way to see the fruit of our labor. And we get to talk to the stakeholders up front, close and personal. One of my senior design project, I was tasked with creating a solar power fruit dehydrator um, for a community in Shalek, Kazakhstan.
Mm.
And there were so many different communication lines, like in communication breakdowns, that we were basically just trying to create this dehydrator in hopes that it met some design criteria that would uphold for a whole community in Shalek. And though we did well on that project, I still feel like we probably missed the mark in a lot of different ways, because there were so many different, like, the people spoke a different language in that community, and
Right.
and there was financial concerns that they had for the process that they were currently using for drying their fruit. Now, those expectations are abstract, and it's hard to really be motivated to say come up with the best project, because we don't know what people are really asking for. But when you have someone in your community to serve that you can kind of relate to on a different level and be more upfront with, and really get the whole story and not a translated story,
Right.
it makes it a lot more tangible and a lot more relevant, more relatable, more more realistic for you to solve that problem. So if we also gave students the opportunity to potentially work in teams to start their own businesses, which some colleges of engineering are doing. They often have the Center for Entrepreneurship in colleges of engineering now, in larger colleges at least. And so they're giving students the opportunity to come up with business ideas and pitch their ideas. But if we could tie that to a course, that would be really powerful. And there are courses that are out there, but if we could find new ways for students to solve problems, in a context that is relevant and relatable to them, I think we would see a lot more students being motivated and putting more effort into the work rather than random projects or lab experiments that may not serve the purpose that it is intended to serve.
Wow. This is it doesn't even feel like it's been 50 minutes, but it's definitely been an amazing show. And for those who are watching, once again, this is the STEM Files, where we do highlight the best and brightest in science, tech, engineering, and mathematics in the Black community. Jabrian engineer Tariq Carter, social media handles are right there at the bottom. Once again, man, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely want to have a part 2, but we like to keep this time for a certain part of the show. As a matter of fact, Jabril, let me know if he answered your question, because those were like maybe 6-7 different questions wrapped up into one. But one of the things we like to do at the end of the show is called the STEM File Speed Round. So this is pretty much a spontaneous,
On the spot.
on the spot, something that we like to use to kind of get to know our guests outside of what we're interviewing them about. So you ready for it?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. First question. What's the first thing you do or think of when you wake up in the morning?
Taking my vitamins.
Take your vitamins. Spiritual vitamins too?
Yeah.
Got you. Excellent. All right. Do you enjoy professional work or volunteering?
Volunteering. I'm all about service.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, service, volunteer work is crucial to be a better professional?
I think absolutely. I think is key in really humanizing your work and making it less tied to money or financial gain. I think volunteering, like generosity, is a spiritual gift that is
Right.
to you. You by being generous, you are really benefiting yourself.
Right. And those who are watching, don't get it twisted. We like the money,
Yeah, we
but
do.
we don't like to let it corrupt us or make us other than what we initially got into what we're doing for. So I definitely respect that. Okay, so Jabril, this is where Jabril and I kind of butt heads at on this question. So, and just kind of judging from the kind of device you use, or I'm not. I mean, I don't know. It could be anything. So, are you an Android guy or iPhone?
Android, but I have an iPad.
Okay, cool. I could rock with that. I use an Android. The only Apple product I have is an iPad. So,
Yeah.
so what do you think is the big deal behind Apple products? Just coming from an engineering perspective.
I think they are really on the cusp of innovating their products. There's constantly a new product every year coming out from Apple. They have their operating system is very intuitive, depending on how foreign an Apple product is to you.
Right.
But it can be it's definitely that they're doing their own thing, and they have their own hardware and software. So that's key. They're differentiating themselves on two different factors. which
Yeah.
puts themselves ahead of the competition.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I can respect about Apple. They're very, very independent when it comes to the development of their
Right.
technology. Most of the things that they use is theirs.
Right.
So
Proprietary.
that I can definitely respect. Just from an innovation perspective, because you can't really say you're innovating or inventing if you don't own the rights to whatever it is that you're producing. So
Right.
I'm very big on that. All right, what's your favorite thing to cook?
Ooh, I lemon butter garlic shrimp pasta. Very
What-
specific.
Oh God, what's with people and shrimp, man? I don't know what the
You
big
like shrimp?
nah, I don't rock with seafood, even if it's like regular fish. Like I'm not a fish guy, like none of that. I'm
That's
straight.
weird. It's reasonable. It's reasonable. I love
Yeah.
shrimp, but
Uh-huh.
you're just missing out.
All right. Let's see. All right, if you were stuck on the island for a year, what would you what would you listen what are the three albums we would listen to, and what would they be? I'm sorry, if you
Uh,
could listen to three albums, what would they be?
I'm torn between Illmatic by Nas and
Okay.
Illmatic by Elzhi. Because it's
Wow.
Detroit. Detroit.
Right.
I'm gonna say Illmatic because Detroit.
Hmm.
Um, let me see. Something by Foreign Exchange. Probably. Uh, what is? Man, this is hard. Let me look up these names. I can't even remember the names.
So many to choose from.
Right, and I'm heavy on the music. So Elmatic, um, Connected by Foreign Exchange, and man, this is hard. I'm just gonna say something random. Uh the Speaker Box and A Love Below by Outkast.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I like that. It's crazy because I'm a big Outkast fan, and
Yeah,
I think you're the first person since we like started doing the speed round that said something with Outkast. I mean, how could, I just don't understand how someone could not have an Outkast album in their arsenal. Like
yeah.
the albums are just but that's a whole nother interview.
Andre
All right.
3000 is
Right. All right. So if you could meet any scientist from the past, who would it be and why?
legendary. Scientists from the past.
They can
Hmm.
still be alive as well.
Oh, okay. If I can be any scientist, can it be an
Yeah.
engineer?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't care what
Okay.
anybody says. Engineers are scientists.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna say Dr. Patricia Bath because I recently wrote her release and she's really accomplished. And I just want to know, first black woman, first maybe black person to get her patent.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, yo, you're an inventor. You
Right.
figured out laser surgery, laser eye surgery. Like, what? How did you?
That's
What's the
insane.
secret sauce? Yeah,
That is insane. Just to see what her journey was like, just trying to get the patent itself.
yeah,
Just getting it. Like not even the innovation, just getting the ability to protect it. So that it remains hers. I would just
right.
love to see what that journey was like for her.
Absolutely.
All right. So if you weren't a mechanical engineer, what would you be doing?
If I was,
If engineering wasn't even in the picture, what would you be doing?
you got the hardest questions. um, I would probably be a philosophy professor.
Mm. Yeah. So as long as I can tell, like as long as you're thinking and providing a new way, a new school of thought to something, I can
Yeah,
tell you'd be successful in that. So I can see
absolutely.
that. Definitely. All right. So my name is Donovan Colquitt, and I am
uh, Black excellence.
Black Excellent. Simply put, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, man, I definitely appreciate your time. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we go?
Yeah. Follow me at Donovan Colquitt is my full name. You can find me on everything on there. If you ever are on Clubhouse, let's have a conversation about tech. Um, and then lastly, I just want to leave a word of advice. I think the power of networking and building deep relationships with individuals is a powerful way to leverage social capital and to really advance as a society. I think human connection is nature. It's natural for us to want to meet each other and talk and understand one another. And so just don't forget to connect with others on a deeper level. Don't just say, "Hey, how you doing?" and then say, "I'm doing good," and then that be the end of it. Dig deeper. And so that's why I appreciate being on your podcast, Tariq and Jabril, because this is a way for us to dig deeper, and I can't wait to see the opportunities that come out of this connection.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, man. And I definitely look forward to that as well. And for those who are watching, this has been another edition of the STEM Files, where we are the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. Our next episode this coming Saturday will feature Mr. Sarian Phillips. He is the first ever crime scene investigator for the island of St. Kitts in the Caribbean. So definitely join us this Saturday, February 6th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, to learn more about his journey and how he's made history for the island and so much more. So once again, I'm Tariq Cardiac, typically joined by Jabril Engineer. This has been the STEM Files. Have a great night.
Deuce.